Okay, so you have your Murov laboratory notebook. And this is the experiment that we're doing this week. So it is a rates experiment. It's visual and spectroscopic. So we finished the rates chapter. So now we're going to do a lab report about rates. So you're going to want to read through this discussion to try to hopefully help you. Yeah, my scanning is not the best. Okay, and see, now we've got some integrated rate laws. We should recognize them because this is what we've been talking about. So this is giving you some more context about rate laws. Okay, so the procedure, this is telling us what we're going to study specifically. So you've been given data. This is the reaction that we're looking at. So this is our iodide, our thiosulfate, iodine, and sulfate. Iodine is a colored species. And look what they gave us. A possible mechanism. So we know that mechanisms can be in different steps. So this is a possible mechanism that they're telling you. That the iodide could react with the thiosulfate. So this is the iodide reacting with thiosulfate. So these are two possible reactants. This should, they got real lazy. That should be an arrow, giving us sulfate, and then this word compound. Now you notice this compound is here also. That would be an intermediate. So if that's an intermediate, that's how we end up with this iodide plus iodide to give us the 2. This thiosulfate to give us the thiosulfate. Here's our iodine, and here's our sulfate plus sulfate. So they're saying that this is a possible 2-step mechanism. They're just saying maybe. So we know for a 2-step mechanism, one of them has to be the slow step, and one of them would not be the slow step. If we can determine the slow step, then we can determine the rate law. But we have to know what the slow step is. So this is saying that if this is our slow step, then the rate law depends on just these reactants. If this is the slow step, then here's our rate law. Because the rate law is always based on the slow step. So this is a possible mechanism. Now we have a possible other mechanism. This is our mechanism 2. So this is saying that in this 2-step mechanism, 2 iodides would combine to give you this weird diiodide, which in turn would combine with the thiosulfate to give you the iodine plus 2 sulfates. If this was the slow step in this possible second mechanism that you've been given, we know the slow step is how we determine the rate law. So this is a possibility. So if the rate only depends on the iodide, and that's all, this is a possible rate law. They're saying now, if the second step is the rate determining step, so that's this one. If this is the slow step, this is an intermediate. So an intermediate is not going to be in the rate law. So we wouldn't show the intermediate in the rate law. But this would be part of our rate law. That's how they get this in the rate law.
Where does the SO4 go though?
That's the product. We're just going to look at the reactants for our rate laws. We're going to base our rate laws on the reactants only. So we're not going to worry about the products.
So how do you determine which one is the slow step?
Oh, from our data. Okay, so this is method 1 is this week. Because this is a 2-week experiment, we're only going to look at method 1 this week. So this is your method 1. And then this is your procedure. Okay, so your procedure is given here in detail. And this is telling you what solutions you would put together. So for example, there's a 1A, 1B, 1C. You're putting the same solutions together, but 3 times. So this table is giving you what to do as far as the solutions to put together. So you're using all these different solutions and you're following this table. So 20 milliliters of 0.2 molar potassium iodide in in test tube 1A or beaker 1A. 10 of the sodium thiosulfate 00, 20 of this the S208, and then nothing of this. So you're repeating this 3 times because you want to have good data. You notice what happens then is we change the amounts. So this is how you would follow the procedure for what to do in the experiment. And you end up doing 1A, 1B, 1C, and then 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You would do all of these. So the first one is at room temperature. You're changing the A, B, C, D here is over here. It didn't, when I was scanning this, you couldn't see it, but and you guys have your lab notebook, so you should be able to see that there's A, B, C, D over here. So this is all at room temperature, telling you what to do, and then it says a purple color appears. So you would watch for the purple color. So that's an important part of the procedure. And then record the time, record the temperature. It's pretty much room temperature. So this part A is the reaction rates, and you're changing the concentrations. Part B, now we can have different temperatures. So the 1A, 1B, 1C was at room temperature. It says you already performed that above. The 2' is at about 35 degrees C. The 3' is about 50 degrees C. So now we want to see, how does the temperature affect the rates? We have hot plates that you would use at school. So the method 2 is next week. So we would only want to use the data for method 1 for this week. Okay, so here is, that's method 2. We'll worry about that next week. Again, this is next week. Okay, so the pre-lab problems, you could type these up, but you will have to answer them. Or you could scan this and write them and upload them. So you will answer the pre-lab problems and you answer all of those. Just continue and answer all of those. Yep, blah, blah, blah. This is all pre-lab. So this is what you still have to do, all these pre-lab, even though we're not physically in the lab. So this is what you're going to do this week. The results and discussion is your post-lab. So you have data which I emailed to you, and you will use the data to fill out this table, which didn't scan very nicely, but you have to fill out this whole table. You have to calculate the iodide, and you'll see the test tube number, and then the thiosulfate. The time is, that's data I give you. So I give you the time, but you have to do the calculations based on that table that showed you how much you're using and then the total amount. You have to take the data and do the 1 over time. I gave you the temperature. You have to take the calculations and do the log. So you have the data which I gave you, which I emailed you last week. And you have to fill out the whole
Professor?
table. Yes.
The email, like you sent the email, but it doesn't have an attachment.
I think I sent it again. Didn't I send a second one and said my bad?
Oh.
I sent one without an attachment and then I realized it and I sent it back again. I sent a second one because I realized I did that and I sent a second one.
I don't think I got that email.
Send me an email. Send me an email. If you did not get one, then just email me to remind me and I'll send it to you today. Okay, this is your post-lab. This is your results of discussion. You're going to do what it says. It tells you to make a graph. You can use Excel. So this is telling you what to graph versus the inverse of time. Whatever these results and discussion tells you to do is what you're going to do. And again, we're just doing the method 1 this week. It's telling you another graph. So you have to do this graph also. Yes, we'll have this as optional because there's enough to do and we're just getting started. So yes, that's optional. Okay, this is asking you what your X and your Y is. This is asking you to look at your data and explain what the mechanism is with your results because you have data now. And then asking you a question about the copper. Okay, this is another table you have to fill in based on the data that I gave you. This is the one with the temperature. So this first one, this says 1 average. That was the 1A, 1B, 1C, that one. And then the 2 prime, 3 prime, 4 prime, those are the different temperatures.
The use of the prime is kind of confusing.
It
That's
is,
also the
it
symbol for a minute, I
is.
think.
It's so tiny, it's hard to notice it, but anyway,
Because
we're
like
kind
we're
of
using
stuck
seconds,
with it.
and that's a symbol for minutes too.
Yeah. It's very, that was not a good call on their part, whoever wrote with the person Murov. Okay, now it's asking you to do another graph. So when it says plot, then you have to do another graph. But just to answer his question, because it is confusing, I don't know why they just didn't give it like a whole nother, like another number or something. Yeah, that 2 prime, 3 prime, it's so tiny. But when you go back and look at, okay, oh, this is method 2, okay. Okay, so what he's referring to, I wish they had just called it something else, but I'm afraid if I change it, that'll be really confusing. We're looking at this. So this was, you already did this at room temperature, so that data is given to you. But now this one, 2 prime, which I don't know why they just didn't give a whole new number. That was at a different temperature. So 2 prime is about 35, 3 prime is about 50, and 4 prime is about 5. So we got room temperature, and then a little higher, a lot higher, and lower. And yet they did this itsy bitsy prime, which is very hardly even noticeable. But that's what it's referring to. Like, how does the rate change the time? Okay, so we're answering all these questions. Oh, those are the pre-labs. Answer the pre-labs, fill out the table. Let's see. You're answering all the post-lab questions for method 1. And again, anytime it says graph or plot, then we have to do those graphs. Another graph. And you can do all of those in Excel. And you want to answer every single question. Okay, that's method 2. We don't care about method 2.
Do we also have to put in the tables that we do on
Yes.
lab archives?
Yes.
Okay. So we just
Yes.
do the cam scan again and we just
Yes.
put it in?
Yes,
Okay,
you
got
can
it.
do the can scan again. Yeah, so this is your results and discussion, your post lab question. So you have to answer all of it. And then by doing this, it should help you understand what's happening with the rates. Okay, so let's go back and look at what's happening here. So this is, again, this is your procedure. Okay, so this first one, 1A, 1B, 1C, we're holding everything constant. This is going to be similar. Let's take a look at, okay, let's compare 1A to test tube 3. Okay, so the S2O3 is constant. But if we look at test tube 3 and test tube 1A, what's happening here? If we only look at test tube 3 to test tube 1A, the S2O3 is the same, but what happens with the iodide? Now the potassium is the spectator ion, we don't care about it, but look at the iodide. 1A and test tube 3. Oops, so we said that we're trying to kind of see what's happening here. We said that the S2O3 is the same. But let's just focus, since the S2O3 is the same, let's focus on the iodide.
So the KCl went up?
Well, okay, the Ki, okay, we're looking at the iodide. If you look at the amount of iodide in test tube 1 compared to the amount of iodide in test tube 3, test tube 1 has twice as much, it's by 2. There's twice as much iodide in test tube 1A as there is in test tube 3. Okay, so you're changing the amount of iodide. If you get the same rate in test tube 1A and test tube 3, then it's 0 order in iodide, because you're changing the amount of iodide and nothing happened. That would make it 0 order.
Wait, I thought the 20 and 10 was like the volume of
It is the
solution.
volume. You have more. If you have more volume, you have more iodide. The
Wait, what?
volume tells you how much you have. So if we look at the volume in test tube 3, we have 10 milliliters of the 0.2 molar iodide.
Wait, so wouldn't the moles increase or something?
Well,
Right.
if you have 20 milliliters, then yeah, the moles would increase. But if the rate stays the same, then that means it would be 0 order in iodide. Because we don't know what the rate is yet. We have to look at the data. So what we're saying is if you change the amount of iodide and the rate does not change, then it would be 0 order in the iodide. We're doubling the iodide. The 1A is double what you have in 3.
Is our KCl different as well?
Oh, we're not worried about the KCl. We're only going to look at the reactants. Yeah, that's not, yeah, that's just, no, we don't worry, yeah. Don't worry about the KCl. We're trying to kind of get a feel for how could we tell what order this is? If we double the amount of iodide and we double the rate, then it's first order. Because remember, we had a question back in the clicker questions about how to determine the order. There was one question that said about changing the rate. So if it was 0 order in iodide, then when you doubled the iodide, you would not change the rate. If it was first order in iodide, then there's a direct proportion to the rate. If you have more iodide, then you would have a faster rate.
So since we used half the iodide and nothing changed, is it 0 order?
It would be, but we don't know that yet because you guys haven't played with your data yet. we're trying to see how could you look at the data and figure out the rates.
So we're like pressing all these different buttons to see what's changing.
Yeah, yeah, that's kind of what we're doing, yep. So we could compare test tube 1A and test tube 3 and get an idea of what's happening. And then if we look at, let's see. Okay, so this is 20. Ah, here we go. Same idea. We could compare test tube 1A with test tube 6 or beaker 6.
The same reactants though, right?
Yes. So if we compared the rate of 1A to the rate of 6 and nothing happened, then it would be zero order in the S208. If the rate changed, then that means if the rate was proportional, then it would be first order. So you can kind of look at the data, but then also you're going to be answering all these post-lab questions.
So
And-
with that,
Yeah, question?
the one that we just did, where only half as much of the product came out.
It's not that the product's coming out, it's that when you look at how we set up this experiment, we've explicitly had, for example, this one, if we compare this one to this one, the iodide changed, but the S208 didn't change. So you could compare that and see, does something change? Does the rate change? If the rate does not change, it's zero order in iodide. If the rate does change, then that means iodide's in the rate law.
What if our iodide and everything was the same, but we still ended up with half of the K2 S208?
Okay, I'm not sure what you're asking.
Column 1A and then column 6.
For which, iodide or S208?
S208.
So 1A and 6?
Yes.
Okay, so that's not going to help us with the iodide, but that will help us with the S208. See, we're keeping the iodide constant, but we're changing the S208. So if the rate stays the same, then that means the S208 is not in the rate law.
All these are reactants?
The iodide and the S208.
Oh, okay. My bad.
And then what you go back to, it all goes back to the prior page. See here, we're trying to figure out the rate laws. They're giving us 3 possible rate laws. They're saying, okay, we can go backwards. We're saying if it's second order in iodide and first order in the thiosulfate, then this is your rate law. If it's zero order in thiosulfate and second order in iodide, this is your rate law. And then the other one was if it's first order. Okay, if it's first order in iodide and first order in thiosulfate, then this is your rate law. You have 3 possible rate laws. So looking at the data, you're supposed to figure out which rate law it is, and then you have to answer all the post-lab questions. So let's go to our lab archives. Okay, so experiment 27, rates and reactions method 1, that's this week. And there's just the one page. So this is to help you. Normally I write all over both whiteboards and leave those up the whole time, but I put some information in here that would be on the whiteboards to help you. This will make more sense when you start working on the data. You get to use your M1V1 equals M2V2, which I know you love to use. And you don't have to show all these calculations in your electronic laboratory notebook. You want to answer all the pre-lab questions. We're just doing the procedure for method 1. So even though this is virtual, we're still having you write a full-blown formal laboratory report. The procedure you get from the lab manual, but you can make it brief. Just doing method 1 this week. So title, you would just put the title. Experiment 27, rates of reactions, method 1. Okay, so this is where you can upload, you can do the attachment and upload them, or if you want to type directly in here with the rich text formats, that's fine too. If you do that, please label 1A, 1B, 1C. If you want to do the attachment, then please label pre-laboratory questions. The procedure, step by step, you can say refer to table, blah, 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 the one that had all the gazillion, how much you used, 20 milliliters, 10 milliliters, and all that. You can do it bullet points, and you can type in here directly. Okay. You're going to want to read the introduction in the Murov, and then about 150 words. What's the theory? What are we doing here? This is a rates experiment, trying to figure out the rate law. So it's the theory. Notice the keyword theory. Okay, because we're doing this virtually, the experimental is your beyond labs, the alpha beta particles. And again, you can just attach that. That's what you were asking before about the notebook. You do your beyond labs in your notebook, you download that PDF, and then you upload that here. So the alpha and beta is because we're talking about nuclear. And so that's your virtual beyond labs here. Okay, this is your results and discussion. You can type it in here if you want. Excel graphs. You can upload all your Excel graphs, because that's the best way to do that. Make sure you answer everything. I don't know why there's an extra little, yeah, I'm not sure why there's extra, anywho. Conclusion. Okay, so I did this to help you. If you answer these questions or these statements, that will be your conclusions. Your conclusions are based on your objectives. So you're going to want to explain briefly. This is a summary. Go add that in there. You're not writing Gone with the Wind. This is a summary. Period. So there's really three parts to this. The first part is you're looking at concentration, its effect on rates, temperature and its effect on rates, callus, its effect on rates. So when you make a statement, you need to use data from your experiment. So for example, at 35 degrees, the rate was blah, whereas at room temperature, the rate was blah. So therefore, temperature, increase in temperature increases a rate. These conclusions are, you make a statement, you use your data to back up that statement. If you just make a statement, anyone can do that, then you're going to lose points. You're going to want to use your actual data to support your statement. You don't have to use all of your data, just a sample of your data, but times, concentrations, you have to give the reaction mechanism. And how did you do that? And we said you could look at the concentrations. You could say, well, iodide, when the amount of iodide was doubled, 10 milliliters versus 20 milliliters, there was no change in the rate, so therefore it's zero order in iodide. Or when the amount of iodide was doubled, 10 milliliters of 0.2 molar potassium iodide versus 20 milliliters of 0.2 molar potassium iodide, the rate doubled, therefore it's first order. You're using your data. You could do it that way. Also, you guys are going to be making graphs. You look at those graphs, and that should help you too. That's another way to support your data. And then you're going to have to give the rate law. And the rate law is based on if it's zero order, first order, or second order. This is just that. I added another how to upload the Beyond Labs in case anyone didn't do that. So that is what you are doing this week. Now, do you have any questions about this?
Professor,
Yes.
for the lab archives, I got a message from a teacher named Phyllis, and
Just
she was
ignore it. I took care of it.
okay. Thank you.
No problem. Other questions? This is worth 15 points. You want these points. And yes, it's a lot of work, but this is the science class. This is typically what happens. Like we said, we're supposed to be working 5 hours per week in lab to get the data. You're being given the data, but we still have to write a full-blown laboratory report because we want this class to transfer when you go to UC and Cal State. So we want to be able to tell them we wrote laboratory reports, we took the data and manipulated it. This class definitely is going to transfer. Okay, other questions?
Professor?
Yes.
For the EOPS students, we can just go to the bookstore window right now, right?
Yes, so apparently what happened is I had been communicating with the bookstore manager January 6th, and he never told me that he was no longer the bookstore manager, so I kept sending him the list, and then I get this other and I found out there's a different bookstore manager, so that's what happened.
Oh, so that's why.
Yes. I was January 6th. I communicated with the then bookstore manager, and I was sending him emails, and he never told me that there was someone else who's going to be the bookstore manager.
Jesus.
So I've been sending email. I sent the list like 5 times. So that's what happened.
All right, so I should just go
Yes.
to the bookstore right now.
So now the new bookstore manager has the list.
All right, cool.
He had
Thank you.
no idea what I was talking about. Oh my God. Anywho. Okay, other questions. 15 points is a lot. It adds up. If this is complete, you should be fine. And just to let you know, that some of the data is better than the other data. So you want to find the data that's good and makes sense. But you should be able to do all of this based on the data I emailed you. Any other questions? I'm just gonna leave that. I don't know why I have so many. I guess I didn't. Other questions? Do we feel like we know what we're doing? Yes, we know what
To an extent.
we're doing. Yes, to an extent. Hey, I'll take that. Any other questions?
Is the PDF online for the lab?
Oh, okay. So, yeah. So if you go to your syllabus.
Uh-huh.
Actually, am I stopping? I may should record still. Wait a minute. Make sure I'm recording. Okay, so go to your syllabus. And what I did was in your syllabus, I put the little videos, the URLs for the little videos. So the way you get your instructions is always the same. So this is the name. So for this week, it's beta particles. Oh, it's alpha and beta particles. So this is your Beyond Labs. So you go to the same place where you get your PDF instructions, but you get the alpha and beta particles.
Mm-hmm.
And to see how to do that, this is the little URL where I showed you how to get that.
Oh, okay, okay.
So if you want to watch this, I go through and I do the little clicking.
Oh no, it's okay. I'll watch on my own.
Yeah, I didn't make a video of doing it because it looked pretty simple this time.
Mm-hmm.
And
Okay.
then also, I believe in your module. So what I'm trying to do is make sure that we can follow the instructions okay. So in your module, you have your Murov listed. So the Murov is your laboratory manual.
Mm-hmm.
So experiment 27, just method 1, that's going to be plenty because you saw those post-lab questions.
Mm-hmm.
Had all those tables to fill in. It had all the graphs to do. But this is what we would do in the face-to-face. You would get the data yourself, and then you'd have to do all those graphs and and fill in the tables. So this is your lab manual, the Murov. And then this is the one where you're doing a little hands-on experiment. And the hands-on experiment are every week kind of related. This one's related to lecture. Now notice this one's also a high school option. This one also that's where I found it. Mostly we're doing college, but this one happens to be a high school option. So if you look in your, this is in your module. So we're week 3, and then we scroll down to here, and then we find the information. And this also helps you with how do you do the lab report. You use the Murov to answer the questions for the pre-lab. The procedure, that's going to go directly in your electronic laboratory notebook, and just make that brief.
Yeah.
Theory.
Wow.
And then again, this is to help you with your conclusion. Does that help? Well, I hear silence. So, okay, so do we know what we're doing? Kind of. Questions? No questions?
I had a question, Professor.
Yes.
So, there's the Beyond Labs, there's the Murov, and then there's the Lab Archives. Which one do you think suggests that we should start on first?
Okay. The Murov is your laboratory manual.
Mm-hmm.
The Beyond Labs is your virtual experiment.
Gotcha.
You're going to do both of them eventually this week.
Right.
The Murov, I'm sending you data. So I sent you the data last week for the Murov. I sent you an Excel spreadsheet.
Oh, the one that says the data for the next 2 weeks?
Yep.
Gotcha.
I sent you the data for method 1 and the data for method 2.
Okay. So they're like completely separate.
Well, I kept them on the same, I mean, they're on different sheets.
Yeah.
But I thought it'd be easier just to do the next 2 weeks worth of lab data just in one time email.
Yeah.
Okay, the lab archives, that's your electronic laboratory notebook. That's where you put everything.
Yeah.
So you've got 3 components. The electronic laboratory notebook is your lab archives. That's instead of having a composition book.
Yeah, like with the
carbonless copy papers, which you would have to scan, and I would have to read your scans. So we're not doing that. So it just depends on what you want to do. Probably the Beyond Labs is the easiest one this week. The Murov is going to take you some time, so please don't wait till Sunday. You have all those graphs to do. You have all those tables to fill out. You got to do some calculations. It's no joke.
Okay. So they're like completely separate. One's not dependent upon the other. It's just
right, exactly. Yep.
Gotcha. Thanks.
When's the lab next Monday, Professor?
Everything's due Sunday at 11:59 p.m. We're going to keep to that and be consistent. Whatever assignments you have each week is always going to be due Sunday 11:59 p.m. But you've got a lot to do this week, so you probably don't want to wait till 7:59 p.m. I'm sorry, you probably don't want to wait till Sunday. I can almost guarantee you, if you wait till Sunday, you will not get it done.
Oh yeah, do we have class next Monday? Because it's President.
Um,
Just asking.
no, it's a holiday. It's a holiday.
Oh yay.
But
But-
it's still this Sunday, 11:59 p.m.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, we're gonna have to finish the chapter this week.
Mm-hmm.
We will. We'll finish it on Wednesday.
Mm.
Other questions?
Professor, for the homework problems that you list for us to practice, do you happen to have like an answer key for those?
You do in your book.
It's in the
Those are
book?
the evens. Those are the evens. They're in the back of the book.
Oh, okay, perfect.
Yeah. And that's just to give you an idea of what type of questions are fair game
Okay.
and more practice. Other questions? Okay, so this is where we're in lab and you're doing the lab while I sit here, so you can leave and do the lab, or you can stay and do the lab, and I have office hours till 3:30. So you're working on the lab. So we're not in the lab room, but you're supposedly working on the lab. Of course, if you leave, how am I gonna know?
Professor said you're gonna reopen the week 2 Connect thing.
Yes, because of the confusion. I will do that.
Professor, for the homework, if we submit it, is there a way to like undo it?
Nope. No, no. I believe once it's submitted, that it's in. I don't.
Because on the homework, I was doing it and I finished it and I looked through it and it said that everything was complete. But then when I submitted it, it said that there was one question that wasn't completed.
Ooh.
But it told me that it was complete. It was really confusing.
Let me take a look at the Connect. I don't know if it allows me to do resubmits. Where am I? Oh, that's not where I wanted to go. That's annoying. Okay, I gotta find the page. It has me in this weird place on Connect. I might have to just go ahead and go back in. Oh, it's gonna make me sign in again. Okay, so that was that was homework. Okay, first of all, let me find your class. There we go. Monday, Wednesday section. Okay, so homework 2. Okay, assignment options. Edit assignment. It's going to be limited. Okay, those are the questions. Continue. Okay, so so I can change the due date. So it's letting me do that. So I have added a day. So 2:09 Pacific Standard Time. Okay, so I changed that. And then what else does it let me do? Submit as due and due date. Okay. It's homework. Okay. So 5 attempts. Set policies. Does that make set policies? So maybe let's me. Okay, so set policies. I just was able to change the due date, and then I signed it as homework. And okay, so I do not see an option for allowing multiple submissions. Maybe if I click on, nope, that didn't let me do anything. Was it just one question? Sana, was it just one question?
Yeah, it was number 20.
Okay, I'm gonna do this because I don't see an option to let me reopen it for you since you submitted it already. So let me just make a note here on my roll sheet, and then I can add the 0.29 to the speed grader. So if there's yeah, the speed grader, I'm able to manually change, but it's not allowing me to open it again for a second attempt. I can't see anything there. Okay, so I've made a little note to myself because it's not, it doesn't look like it's, I don't see anywhere where it says to set policies, name my assignment. Didn't I name it? Submit as due, okay, submit as due on the due date. Yeah, that just, yeah. There's no place where it allows a resubmit. I do not even see that option. Let's just add the 0.29 points to your grade in Speed Grader.
Okay, thank you so much, Professor.
Yeah, because I can't find that. Okay, we'll just do that. I wrote it down. Okay, I think we're good. Yep. Other questions? Because you're free. You're free. Oh, what happened? Oh, that was me. Okay, sorry. Senior is on there. Other questions?
Professor?
Yes.
The email that you sent for the data for this experiment, the email was blank. There was no attachments or anything.
But I sent it again. I didn't.
I don't see any newer emails with file in them or with the data.
Okay, let me get my sheet out because I wrote down what data set you're supposed to get. It's very possible I sent it with no data. Okay, that is okay. So I wrote down your data set. So you emailed me, right?
I haven't emailed you at all. I was just checking through the
okay.
The emails that you sent
Yeah, I
first.
could yeah, it would not surprise me in the least if I sent you an email without sending any data. I was getting kind of tired. Okay, so yeah, that's why if I did that, whoa, oh my God, I've got like a zillion emails. Okay, so it's Josh, do I have your, wait, can I find your email? Josh, what have I said?
I have the same problem. I don't have any data either.
Well, that was me being tired. No, seriously, I was getting to be brain dead. Okay, so I'm gonna do it right now. Yeah, if I accidentally sent you an email and I did not put the data in, just email me really fast. And there we go. Okay, Josh, I got it. I'm sending it to you right now. Yeah, if you would just email me individually about the data, because I wrote down your data set, but it would not surprise me at all if I threw out an email there and didn't put the data.
Okay. I'm just gonna send a reply to the blank email that you sent. Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
And I did the same thing to Hong. Okay, well, my brain gone. Definitely. That's, oh my God. I used to have such a good brain. Okay. I can do that right now while you guys are just hanging out. Okay. Let's see, yeah, there we go. I'm not even going to say anything. I'm just going to send it. I'm not even going to bother saying anything in the email. I'm just going to send you the. Oh, and Matthew. God, jeez. Okay. Okay. Wow, how did I mess up that? Okay. I'll get there eventually. I thought it said upright. Well, I guess not.